My family called me a holiday parasite in the group chat. I sent them $60,000 in receipts, canceled everything and said, "Merry Christmas, I'm done." At 3:12 a.m., a notice appeared on my phone's screen. I was lying in bed, unable to fall asleep after another exhausting 12-hour shift at the hospital. My hand hovered over the screen, peering at an unfamiliar group conversation. Someone had unintentionally added me to family reality check rather than removing me from it. The first message I saw made my blood run cold. Thank goodness, she's covering the turkey again this year. I wasn't about to spend $150 on that. My sister-in-law Sarah, correct? She's yearning to be included. She will pay for anything. It's quite sad. My brother David. Holiday parasite hits again. Christmas tree emoji. Money with wings emoji. My cousin Olivia. I scrolled up with trembling hands. The discussion has been active for 3 years. My family spent 3 years laughing at how I paid for their vacations while mocking me behind my back. There were images of my Venmo payments with sobbing and smiling emoticons. There were jokes about my nurse income and how I was too naive to recognize I was being used. My mother had given me a present of someone tossing money into a fire with the inscription, "Lily's Christmas Spirit." LOL. Lily, that's me. This appears to be the family ATM. My throat clenched as I read each message. They organized a betting pool on what I would pay for next. My aunt won $40 when I offered to pay for our family's hotel accommodations on our trip to Colorado last year. $40. They had practically gained from my kindness twice. I sat in the darkness of my studio apartment, which I could barely afford because I'd been sending money home for every holiday, birthday, and emergency my family could think of. The flat I had decorated with used furniture since I had recently paid my mother $2,500 for her medical costs, which I later discovered when reading through these texts, had really funded her trip with her lover. Should we tell her about our plans to spend Christmas at the cabin this year? If we claim Mom's heart can't withstand the burden of hosting, she'll completely cover the rental fee. Genius. Lily is such a people pleaser. Simply mention Mom's health and she will open her pocketbook like a railroad seal. The messages blurred as tears flowed down my cheeks. Train the seal vacation parasite. Too foolish to realize. I had been a nurse for 7 years, working long hours, doing additional shifts, and foregoing vacations. I convinced myself I was assisting my family since I was responsible and had a secure profession. My mother used to present me to her friends as my daughter, the nurse, with much pride in her voice. I assumed she was proud of me. It turned out she was merely pleased of my direct deposits. The worst message came from my younger sister, Chloe, whom I assisted in completing her undergraduate education. I'd pay for her textbooks, food plan, and even her sorority dues if she complained about feeling left out. Lily is working another holiday shift this year. More money for us. Maybe I'll finally get that Gucci bag I want since she's covering Christmas dinner and the gifts for Mom and Dad. You're a demon, Alamu. But honestly, she makes it too simple. She offers to pay. That is on her. I volunteered because every time I returned home, someone casually mentioned how difficult things were financially. How Dad's vehicle needs repairs. How David could not afford Christmas presents for his children. Grandma's medicine was very pricey. I felt bad for having a consistent salary while others appeared to struggle. But David had shared Instagram posts from his weekend vacation to Vegas 3 days after I handed him $750 for his children's Christmas presents. Sarah wore a new designer handbag in each photograph. Chloe's apartment was full with pricey furnishings and decorations. They were not striving. They were wasting my money as I ate ramen and worked additional shifts. I continued browsing through the chat history. Every message is a fresh wound. There were discussions about my weight, my dating life, and my mundane employment experiences. Olivia had written lines about how I showed up to her wedding wearing a Target dress while everyone else wore luxury brands. What do you expect from someone who spends all of her money on others? Lal had said, the cognitive dissonance was staggering. They ridiculed me for not spending money on myself while also taking advantage of that fact. I discovered notes from last Easter when I had sent Mom $1,200 for the family supper. She informed me she was entertaining 20 people and needed help footing the fees. The conversation conveyed a different story. Only 8 people are coming, but Lily does not need to know that the additional money will pay my Botox session. Lawo. My hands were so shaky that I almost dropped my phone. My mother used the money I earned from 12-hour stints washing up body wastes and holding dying patients' hands to inject chemicals into her face. Then she shared pictures with the remark, blessed and grateful for family. There was a whole thread about my last birthday. I turned 32 and spent it alone in my apartment with a grocery store cupcake because I had been working 2 shifts. I'd shared a single Instagram snapshot of the cupcake with a candle titled, "Another Year Wiser." The family discussion had exploded. "Have you seen Lily's sad birthday post? So pitiful. Maybe if she wasn't always working, she'd have more pals. She works full-time so she can send us money. It is currently referred to as priorities." Sarah gave a gift of someone weeping into a cupcake. There are 15 laugh reactions. I had worked that extra shift because David had called to complain about his electricity being turned off. He urgently needed $400. I took on the extra shift, paid him the money, and spent my birthday weary and alone. His electricity had never been turned off. 2 days after my birthday, he wrote about his new gaming PC. Everything is top-notch. Easily $1,800 in equipment. The pattern appeared everywhere. When I started researching, I discovered that every emergency that had taken me away from my own life, even my own wants, had been invented or exaggerated. The situation would be conveyed with tears and despair. I'd transfer money, and within days, there'd be social media posts detailing where my salary had gone. My aunt's faulty heater from January had really been operating well. She had hoped to go on a trip to Miami. My money had paid for her flights and lodging, and she informed me she was wrapped in blankets until the repairmen could arrive. I discovered a note from my mother to the group sent 2 Christmases ago. Lily just asked if she may bring someone to Christmas dinner. A guy from her hospital. I told her we didn't have any space. Haha. We can't have her sidetracked from her duty as family ATM by a boyfriend. I had been seeing James, a respiratory therapist, for 3 months. I was delighted to present him to my family. When my mother indicated there wasn't enough space, I believed her and apologized for imposing. James and I had broken up 2 months later. He had stated, "I prioritized my family over our relationship, that I was never available because I was always working extra shifts to send money home." He was correct, and my family had organized it. There were more notes regarding other partners and friends who I attempted to bring around. My family had purposefully separated me, keeping me alone and loyal to them. The more lonely I felt, the more I looked to them for companionship. The more I turned to them, the more money came their way. It was psychological warfare masquerading as family. I found betting pools based on my life decisions. When will I get a new car? I was still driving a 15-year-old Honda because whenever I saved enough for a down payment, someone had an emergency. Will I ever leave my sad little apartment? What is the best justification for getting money for the forthcoming spring break? They had weaponized my sympathy. Every positive trait I possessed had been recognized, evaluated, and utilized for profit. The conversation was still live. Someone had just sent a message. "Is Lily attending Christmas this year? I need to know if we should bother cooking or if she would just pay for catering like last year." "Oh, she will arrive. Where else might she go? She lives solely for work, and as our own Santa Claus." My hands stopped shaking. Something cold and harsh settled in my chest, replacing the pain with unmistakable rage. They assumed I had no life. They assumed I was so thirsty for their acceptance that I would keep paying their lifestyle indefinitely. I opened my laptop and began working. First, I logged into every payment app, subscription, and account associated with my family. I used the same Hulu account as everyone else. Netflix is mine. I paid for my mother's boyfriend's Costco membership, which he utilized every weekend. The mobile phone plan for David, Sarah, Chloe, and my parents. All in my name, paid for with my account. I had been covering 6 phone lines for 3 years. Phone costs alone totaled more than $3,500. My nibbles were made possible by my Disney Plus subscription, the Spotify family plan, the Amazon Prime membership that granted everyone free delivery, iCloud storage for my mother's 10,000 photographs. All mine. Then there were direct payments. I maintained detailed records because I had filed everything for tax purposes, hoping that some of it would qualify as dependent care or gifts that I could document. $10,500 for last year's Christmas. I had paid for the cabin rental, all of the food, gifts, and decorations, as well as the gas money for everyone's trip to the mountains. Thanksgiving cost $7,500 over the last 3 years combined. $12,500 in unpaid emergency loans, automobile issues, medical expenditures, and rent help were all meticulously noted in my spreadsheet. $5,500 for Chloe's schooling, and $3,000 for David's children's birthdays and gifts. The list continued on and on. Over the last 5 years, I've given my family slightly over $60,000. The meltdown made me feel queasy. $10,500 for last year's Christmas alone. Thanksgiving costs $7,500 over 3 years. $12,500 in emergency loans were never returned. $5,500 for Chloe's schooling. $3,000 for David's children's parties and gifts. Phone costs totaled $3,800 over a 3-year period. $6,500 for streaming services and subscriptions. $5,000 for insurance premiums and warranties. $3,700 in medical crises that were actually vacations. Over the course of 2 years, Mom's subscription boxes cost $2,800. Sarah's meal kit service cost $2,500. $1,000 for various crisis payments. $60,000. I could have purchased a house. I could have repaid my student loans. I could have traveled, invested, and established a life for myself. Instead, I paid for their trips, luxury, and comfort, while they referred to me as a parasite in group chat. The irony was not lost on me. I was the parasite, supporting their existence with my money while they drained me dry. I captured screenshots of everything. Every communication in that group chat, every payment receipt, every text in which they requested money and promised to repay me. Then I began canceling. But first, I needed to think strategically. After 7 years of nursing, I realized that you don't just tear out in 4 without thinking about the implications. You plan, prepare, and ensure that the patient cannot claim you for negligence. I set up a new email address that was absolutely different from everything my family knew about. Then I adjusted the contact information on every account, service, and subscription. I enabled 2-factor authentication for everything, using my new email address and a Google Voice number they'd never seen. Only once every account had been secured under my sole authority did I begin disassembling. The phone plan came first. 6 lines beneath my name cost me $300 a month. I got into Verizon and looked at the use. David used an average of 47 gigabytes of bandwidth each month while watching videos. Sarah was always on social media, accumulating hours of screen time on my dime. Chloe's line revealed that she had been making international calls to her boyfriend, who was studying abroad in France. That explained the $150 in foreign fees I had been paying for 6 months. My parents' remarks were less insulting but nonetheless arrogant. Dad seldom used his phone. Mom, on the other hand, seems to have discovered TikTok and was constantly streaming video stuff. I downloaded all of the information, every bill from the previous 3 years, and every use report. Then I phoned Verizon and told that I needed to delete all secondary lines immediately. The agent attempted to encourage me to just transfer the lines to the other users. No, I said forcefully. Disconnect them. They are not permitted to transfer. But ma'am, they will lose their numbers. Good. The lines would expire in exactly 48 hours. I set a calendar reminder to check at that precise moment. Streaming services were simpler but more enjoyable. I got onto Netflix and reviewed my viewing history. 4 separate profiles, none of which are mine. David had been binge-watching true crime documentaries. Sarah preferred reality shows about wealthy housewives, which felt sadly fitting. Chloe viewed romantic comedies. Mom had found out how to watch British baking shows repeatedly. I removed all profiles but my own, updated my password and configured new security settings that would disable any device presently signed in. Then Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, and Paramount+. I was enrolled to 7 different streaming sites, which cost me about $80 per month, but I hardly viewed any of them since I was constantly working. Each received the same therapy. Password updated, devices removed, and account protected. The Costco membership seemed intriguing. I signed into my account and saw that I could view purchase history. My mother had been shopping there twice a week. The purchases varied from basic grocery to luxury products, such as a $500 outdoor furniture set, a $250 stand mixer, cases of premium wine, and party platters for occasions to which I had never been invited. David had evidently purchased auto supplies, including a complete set of winter tires, in October. I'd been informed he couldn't afford the tires, so I paid him $400 for auto repairs. I terminated the subscription and asked for a prorated refund for the remaining months. I received a $75 refund. The iCloud storage cancellation was likely the most little, but it made me very happy. Mom had backed up her entire digital life to my 2 terabyte plan, photographs, films, and papers. I dropped to the free 5 GB subscription and watched as the system instantly began notifying her that her backup had failed. She would not lose anything permanently, but she would have to find out her own cloud storage. At her age and technical ability level, she would be frustrated for weeks. I imagined her phoning David or Chloe for assistance, them understanding I'd cut them off, and the growing terror that their free ride had ended. Then followed the less noticeable but more expensive cancellations. I had been paying for David's auto insurance for the last year. He'd contacted me concerned about losing coverage, and I'd added his car to my multi-vehicle policy. That was $200 every month, which I would never see again. I phoned my insurance company and had his vehicle taken immediately. The spokesperson warned that there may be a gap in his coverage. That's his problem, I explained. I had been paying for Chloe's gym membership at a high-end fitness club. She informed me she needed it for her mental health but couldn't afford the $75 per month price. I had placed it up on auto-pay and forgotten about it. I contacted the gym to cancel. No notice time was required because I was the account holder. There was more. There's so much more. I had been paying for Mom's subscription boxes. 3 distinct ones. Monthly delivery of beauty goods, food, and literature. Total monthly cost. $120. It's all canceled. Sarah had grumbled about not having time to food shop with the kids, so I had been covering her membership to a meal kit service. That was $220 per month for pre-portioned food brought to her door, while I ate frozen dinners between shifts. Canceled. Dad's roadside assistance package. I purchased an extended warranty for David's television, and Chloe subscribed to a meditation program that allegedly costs $85 per year. Every automated payment, recurring fee, and service I had set up and then forgotten about. I combed through 17 months' worth of credit card accounts and discovered 43 distinct recurring expenditures related to my family. Some were tiny, $4 per month subscriptions. Others were large, such as the $180 monthly donation I was paying to what I assumed was Grandma's care fund. The group conversation had informed me about that specific strategy. Grandma was fine. She resided in a subsidized senior community with complete medical coverage. David had the notion to set up the care fund to pay for his yacht. He did not even let Grandma use the boat. There were texts about her requesting to go out on the lake and him giving excuses. By 7 a.m., I had canceled or moved 43 services and subscriptions. My monthly costs have suddenly decreased by $1,600. Annually, I spent more than $18,000 on services for people who dubbed me a parasite. The arithmetic was so ludicrous that I began laughing, weeping, then laughing again until I couldn't breathe properly. I wrote an email to my landlord indicating that I would not be renewing my lease once it ended in 3 months. I'd been doing month to month anyhow. Then I started looking at flats in Portland, 3 states away, where I had been given a position at a famous hospital the previous year. I turned it down because my family had guilted me into moving away. "Who will help us if you leave?" my mother said, crying. The job advertisement was still live. I emailed the director to indicate my newfound interest. By 5 a.m., I'd filed chargebacks on 3 loans that my relatives claimed were for medical crises, but that, based on their social media posts, had been used for entertainment and luxury items. Credit card fraud is unlawful, and lying claiming a medical emergency to collect money is also fraud. I hadn't filed charges yet, but I had the material ready. The sun was rising as I wrote my message for the Family Reality Check group chat. I've included a PDF with 37 pages of receipts, bank statements, and payment records. Every penny I gave them over 5 years was categorized and dated. My request was simple. "Hi everyone. I see I was accidentally added to this chat. How convenient. Since I'm apparently a holiday parasite, I've decided to stop feeding the hosts. Attached, you'll find documentation of every payment I've made to this family over the past 5 years, totaling $60,000. Consider it my final Christmas gift. The truth about who the real parasites are. All shared services and subscriptions have been discontinued, effective immediately. The phone plan expires in 48 hours. I will not be attending Christmas this year or any subsequent years. I will not be accessible for emergency loans, holiday funds, or any other form of financial assistance. If you're not sure why, scroll up. You've spent 3 years making it quite apparent how you feel about me. I now believe you. Merry Christmas. Do not contact me again." I pushed send and immediately blacklisted all of my family members' phone numbers. Then I erased every social media account I owned. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. I did not want to see their answers. I did not want their apologies or explanations. Going nuclear requires you to fully commit. No half measures, no looking back. My phone began buzzing within minutes. Unknown numbers attempted to call. I was expecting that. I turned it entirely off. Because so many nurses wanted to take time off, the hospital management gave me more holiday shifts. I'd always been the one to volunteer, telling myself it was better to work than disrupt my family's festivities. Now I realized I'd only been useful when I arrived with gifts and open wallets. I took every available shift from November 1st to January 15th, 75 days of time and a half pay, plus extra time for the real holidays. With my basic income and overtime, I was looking at around $42,000 for 2.5 months of work. I worked. I slept. I worked again. There will be no phone calls, social media, or family time. Only work. My coworkers sensed that something had changed. I've always been pleasant yet guarded. Always running off to assist my family with anything. I remained for post-shift beverages. I joined the hospital book club. I went to a Thanksgiving meal at my colleague Rachel's house and met her family, who were ordinary folks who didn't consider everyone's net worth before choosing if they were worthy of kindness. The weeks between my epiphany and Thanksgiving seemed odd. I lived in a cocoon, impervious to the realities of my past. My phone remained turned off save for work-related calls on my new number. I created a new email address and only sent important messages there. Everything from my prior accounts disappeared into a dark hole that I never checked. At work, I felt sharper than I have in years. Without the continual mental strain of dealing with my family's created emergencies, I had more cognitive space for my actual job. I identified a drug mistake before it reached a patient. I discovered a shift in a patient's health that the resident had overlooked, perhaps averting a stroke. Linda took me aside after that one. "Whatever's changed with you," she said. "Keep doing it. You've always been good, but lately you've been exceptional." I didn't tell her that extraordinary just meant no longer being steadily stripped of resources and will to live. The first major test came 3 weeks in. I was refilling supplies in the intensive care unit when I heard my name called. Not Lily Green. Nobody at work was aware of the name change yet. My prior identity was Lily Morrison. I turned to see Chloe standing at the unit's doorway, looking little and afraid. "You can't be here," I said quickly. "This is a restricted area. Family consultation rooms are on the second floor." "Lily, please. I just need 5 minutes." I quietly called out to security. "There is an unauthorized individual in the intensive care unit." Chloe's eyes widened. "Lily, come on. I drove 4 hours." Within seconds, a security guard emerged. Our ICU followed strict protocols for a purpose. "This person isn't authorized to be here," I informed him. "Please escort her out of the hospital." "Lily, I'm your sister." Chloe's voice trembled. "You can't just—" "I don't have a sister," I said, keeping her gaze squarely. "I'm an only child. Please remove her." Chloe sobbed as security escorted her away. I didn't feel anything. No guilt, no grief, and no pity. She had called me foolish while squandering the education money I had fought so hard to get. She giggled at the fact that I was a trained SEAL. 5 minutes of crying did not repair 3 years of torment. Linda spotted me in the supply closet 10 minutes later, holding an inventory clipboard and counting 4 bags mechanically. "Want to talk about it?" she inquired. "Nothing to talk about," I said. "Someone trying to access a restricted area. Security handled it." "Lily," she said, placing her hand on my shoulder. "That woman said she was your sister." "I don't have a sister." Linda gave me a long look. "Okay," she answered at last. "But if you ever do want to talk, my office door is always open. And for what it's worth, whatever happened, I'm proud of how you handled it. Professional, appropriate, no drama." I nodded, not trusting my own voice. After she went, I completed my inventory count, carefully documented everything and returned to my patients. Routine and structure kept me sane. Thanksgiving has come. Rachel's invitation was real, and I had accepted. I arrived with an expensive bottle of wine and a handmade sweet potato casserole, which I could not have afforded in my previous life. Rachel's home was cozy and chaotic in the greatest way. Her husband, Mark, made dad jokes while roasting the turkey. Their 3 children rushed around, playing some complicated game with a foam sword and a lot of shrieking. Susan, Rachel's mother, was in the kitchen, teaching her youngest daughter how to prepare pie dough from scratch. "You must be Lily," Susan remarked, wiping flour from her hands on her apron. Rachel talks about you constantly. The brilliant nurse who never complains about double shifts. That's me, I said, feeling embarrassed. Compliments still seemed alien. Well, we're glad you're here, Susan replied cordially. Rachel says you're alone for the holidays. There it was, the inevitable question. I prepared for it. My family and I aren't in contact anymore. I answered plainly. Toxic situation. Better for everyone that I stepped away. Susan nodded knowingly. Good for you. Too many people stay in harmful situations because of obligation. Family should make you feel loved, not used. The term used struck a different chord coming from a stranger. Validation from someone who has no stake in the game. Dinner was both noisy and excellent. Nobody cared about the cuisine, which was nice, but not remarkable. Mark's turkey was slightly dry. Rachel had oversalted the green beans, and one of the kids spilled a glass of cranberry juice. Everyone laughed it off. Susan related a tale about unintentionally serving a turkey that was frozen in the center to 20 guests. We ordered pizza, she remarked, chuckling. Best Thanksgiving ever because it was the year we stopped pretending everything had to be perfect. I reflected on my family's Christmases, when I'd paid for professional cuisine and extravagant decorations in order to project a successful image. Meanwhile, they were mocking me in their group chat for trying too hard. This informal, flawed dinner with near strangers was more enjoyable than any Christmas I'd spent with my biological relations. Rachel and I had a coffee break on the back patio after dinner, while the kids played board games. Thank you for inviting me, I said. This was really nice. Thank you for coming, Rachel said. I know it probably feels weird spending holidays with coworkers. You're more than a coworker, I admitted, surprised myself with my candor. You're a friend. Maybe my only real friend. Rachel was quiet for a minute. What happened with your family, Lily? You don't have to tell me, but I've worked with you for 3 years and you've changed so much in the past month. You're lighter somehow. Like you were carrying something heavy and finally put it down. I told her, not everything, but the core of it. The group chat, the mockery, the money. Rachel listened without interrupting, her countenance swinging from amazement to fury, to grief. $60,000. She repeated when I finished. Lily, that's financial abuse. You know that, right? I hadn't thought about it that way. Abuse seems like a harsh term. Rachel kept going. They manipulated you, lied to you, isolated you, and exploited your kindness for years. That's abuse. The fact that their family doesn't make it less severe. It makes it worse. Hearing it labeled so clearly affected me. My eyes burned with tears that I refused to weep. I feel stupid, I acknowledge. Like I should have seen it sooner. Con artists target smart people, Rachel stated with determination, because smart people think they're too smart to be conned. You're not stupid. You're kind. They weaponized your kindness. That's on them, not you. Rachel's adolescent daughter complained that her phone was ancient. Rachel assured her she could get a new one if she saved up her allowance. Nobody expected someone else to fund their desires. It was such a strange thought that I nearly sobbed into my mashed potatoes. December 24th has come. I worked a 12-hour shift in the ICU. Around 3 p.m., a woman in her 60s approached the nurse's station, seeming disoriented. I'm trying to find my daughter, she stated. She's a nurse here. Lily Green. Despite the alterations, I knew her immediately. My mother appeared thinner and more drawn. Her hair was styled differently, shorter, but the desperation in her eyes was clear. I'm sorry, I said quietly. There's no one here by that name. It wasn't exactly a lie. I'd filed for a name change 2 months earlier, and while the legal procedure was still ongoing, I'd ceased identifying as Lily Morrison in every manner that counted. Please, my mom urged. I know she works here. I need to talk to her. Security came before I needed to answer. Apparently, she had been creating a disturbance in the lobby for an hour. They let her out, and she yelled my old name. I completed my shift with firm hands. On January 3rd, the Portland hospital offered me the post. Head nurse at their cardiac unit, earning $40,000 more each year than my previous position, signing bonus and relocation aid. I agreed immediately. By mid-January, my name change had become official. Lily Morrison was legally dead. My grandmother's maiden name, Lily Green, was born. Everything is fresh, including the driver's license and nursing license. I was reincarnated and have the documents to prove it. My Portland apartment was double the size of my previous studio, and located in a building with a gym and a rooftop garden. I purchased new furniture, actual furniture, not curb finds, and Facebook Marketplace sale stuff. I purchased paintings for my walls. I got a gray tabby cat from the local shelter and called him Phoenix. I had risen from the ashes of who I once was. My previous email account has been receiving messages for several months. I never opened them. They moved to a folder called Dead to Me that auto-archived everything, but curiosity got the best of me in March. My mother's emails were lengthy guilt trips about family obligations and how harsh I was. Sarah submitted a 2-sentence apology, blaming her actions on postpartum depression from 4 years ago. David stated that I had misread the context of the group discussion. They had been kidding. Couldn't I take a joke? Chloe's response was different, short and straightforward. You paid for my education and I called you stupid. You're the smartest person I know and I'm the idiot. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I've started paying you back. It'll take years, but I'm putting $150 into a savings account every month in your name. I'll send you the details when I have your address. If you never want to speak to me again, I understand. But I'm sorry. Really truly sorry. I didn't react, but I also didn't delete it. The others may rot, but Chloe's note remained in my inbox, a small seed of something that could one day bloom into forgiveness. Maybe. In years from now. One email stood out from the others. My dad's. He'd never participated in the group chat. I had seen his name displayed but he rarely posted. Lily, I didn't know about the chat until you sent those screenshots. Your mother showed me her phone and I saw what they'd all said. What I'd allowed by staying silent when I should have noticed what was happening. You deserved better from all of us, but especially from me. I should have protected you. I filed for divorce last week. I'm living in an apartment now, working with a therapist to understand how I enabled this. I'm not asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that I see what I failed to do, and I'm trying to become someone who wouldn't fail you again, even if you never let me be part of your life. I love you. I'm proud of you and I'm sorry, Dad. I read the email 3 times before closing my laptop. You sometimes burn bridges. Some bridges burn themselves. Some bridges fall as a result of years of foundation faults that you were too busy to notice. Spring arrived in Portland with cherry blossoms and showers. I dated Ryan, a teacher who believed my dedication to my job was laudable and not something to exploit. We attended cookery lessons together. He never asked me to pay for his share. Rachel asked me to join her family's Easter celebration. Her mother inquired about my family, and I told her the truth. I don't own one anymore. She hugged me and said, "You do now, honey." I grieved in her bathroom for 10 minutes before eating 3 servings of ham. My bank account has grown. I finished off my college loans in April. The entire $28,000 was spent in one payment. As I glanced at the $0 balance, I felt lighter than air. In May, I received an $850 cashier's check with a message from Chloe. First payment. Many more to come. Your new address was on the court documents for the name change public record. I am not stalking you, I promise. I just want to make this right. The case number was found in the county database. I deposited the check and acknowledged it by SMS to the number she provided. By June, my mother had located my address. I arrived home to see her waiting outside my building. Security will remove you if I call them, I added, continuing to go toward the entrance. Lily, please. That's not my name anymore. You're my daughter. For the first time in 6 months, I came to a complete stop, turned, and looked her in the eyes. She appeared older, smaller. The mother who raised me, patched my skinned knees, and fed me chocolate chip pancakes on Sundays looked like a stranger with a familiar face. Your daughter died when she realized her family saw her as a wallet with legs, I explained calmly. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the police. She departed in 45 seconds. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. That night I wrote my father a simple email. Acknowledged your message. Not ready to talk. Maybe someday. Focus on yourself. Hey, he said. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. Portland's summer was lovely. Ryan and I went for a walk on Mount Hood. I took a vacation to Greece, which had been a long-time desire of mine. I shared images on my new private Instagram account, which had only 30 followers, all of whom I'd met within the last year. No one asked me to send money. Nobody needed me for anything other than my companionship. It was the most peaceful I'd ever experienced. In August, Chloe sent a second check with a longer message. I got a promotion. Sending $450 this month. Told David and Sarah what I'm doing, and they think I'm stupid for giving you money you don't even need now. That's how I know it's the right thing to do. You deserved better. I'm trying to be better. M. I replied with the following. Proud of your promotion. Use half that money for yourself. I mean it. An hour later, she responded. Only if you promise to let me take you to dinner if you're ever back east. No agenda, just sisters eating overpriced pasta. I didn't promise, but I also didn't say no. September brought colder temperatures and a revelation. I'd completely reinvented my life in less than a year. New city, new job, new name, and new connections. Everything the old Lily had been too terrified to grasp for because she was too busy serving as everyone's safety net. The new Lily, Lily Green, was no longer terrified. I got a phoenix tattoo on my shoulder blade, rising from flames. The artist inquired about the meaning. Rebirth, I said simply. She grinned. Those are the best kind. October arrived with falling leaves and a surprise delivery. Inside was a hand-knit scarf in forest green, my favorite color, along with a message from my father. Your grandmother taught me to knit before she died. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm trying. Stay warm. No response needed. The scarf was uneven and had a few drop stitches. It was perfect. I wore it every frigid day in the fall. The message's first anniversary, as I recall, occurred on a random Tuesday. I had worked the night shift and arrived home to find another check from Chloe. She had been steady, never missing a month. My father also sent me an email with images of him at a volunteer facility feeding food to homeless veterans. Trying to be useful to people who actually need help, his email. Read, trying to be someone you could be proud of again someday. I looked at my schedule. Christmas was 8 weeks away. Ryan asked if I'd want to spend the holidays with his family in Seattle. Rachel invited me to her place again. I had alternatives now. People wanted my presents, not my gifts. I selected Rachel's. Her tenderness reminded me of how family should feel. On Christmas Eve, I worked a half shift before going to Rachel's place for supper. Her children staged a messy nativity scene, with a household dog playing a confused sheep. Her husband Mark told bad jokes. Her mother inquired about my cat and showed me images of her own 3 rescue pets. Nobody asked for money. Nobody required me to be anything other than myself. After supper, I checked my emails. Chloe sent a new message. Merry Christmas. I'm not expecting a response. Just wanted you to know I think about you every day and I'm still sorry. Still paying back. Still trying. Hope you're happy wherever you are. I replied, Merry Christmas, Em. I'm happy. Keep being better. That's enough. Her reaction was quick. You responded, best Christmas gift ever. Love you, sis. I glanced at the words. Love you, sis. A part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wasn't prepared. I wrote, talk next year. Maybe is enough. Thank you. I shut down my laptop and rejoined the party. Rachel's kid was attempting to teach the dog how to wear a Santa hat. Ryan offered me champagne and kissed my forehead. Someone began a board game, which descended into happy squabbling. This is how the holidays were supposed to be. Joy without a transaction. Love without calculation. A year ago, I was the holiday parasite, unintentionally feeding a family that regarded me as prey. Now I was just Lily, free, happy, and entire. The finest kind of vengeance I'd discovered was not devastation, it was a reconstruction. I destroyed who I was and rebuilt someone better from the ashes. And I had never looked back. Almost never. On New Year's Eve I got my father's final message. I know you're not ready. I might never be forgiven and I've accepted that. But I wanted you to know I'm divorcing your mother. I'm in therapy. I've cut off everyone who was in that chat and I'm living differently. Not for you, for me, so I can look at myself in the mirror. You deserve a father who protected you. I'm becoming that man even if it's too late. Happy New Year, sweetheart. I saved the message. Did not react. Not yet, but maybe I will in the future. Some relationships are salvageable, some cannot. The problem is determining which ones are worth the effort. As midnight came, Ryan drew me in and asked what I wanted for the new year. More of this, I murmured, indicating to the life I'd created. More peace, more joy, more people who love me for me, not for what I can give them. That's not too much to ask, he said. For the first time in my life, I actually believed him. The new year began with champagne, laughing, and hope. I had paid for everything at Christmas once. Holidays, gifts, everyone's happiness but myself. Now I had paid for my freedom. Best investment I've ever made.